All right. Welcome everybody again. Delighted to see you all here today. We're very excited to announce our new solution, new division, Supply Focus. And we got quite a bit of an agenda today. So the team will present as a team today, and we'll kick it off with an introduction of who we are and what do we do. We'll move on to quickly why Supply Focus and what is Supply Focus. And then we'll have a couple of demonstrations. We have selected a pretty few sample demos today at demand planning, supplier selection, supply planning, and a production planning as well. So there will be a mix of different industries, different flavors of Supply Focus. So hopefully that will kind of demonstrate much better than what it is. And then we'll have some room for Q&A, and then we will close it off today. All right, Stefan, over to you.
Thank you, Hulesh. Welcome everybody. I'm happy to give you some introduction words. So just presenting for the people who doesn't know who Cubewise is. We're a global company located in a lot of locations all over the world, from Asia, APAC region to Europe and US region, and Africa also. So we're based, as you can see, in a lot of location all over the world. So we're an enterprise performance management consulting company. We're an IBM business partner with, as I've shown previously, a global presence reach, supporting you locally with a lot of local office. We've composed a team of very expert, as well on the functional side, and of course on the technical side, people working at Cubewise and being involved in all the project that we're working on. In terms of offering, Cubewise is a component of a set of a portfolio of product. Of course, as an enterprise performance management consulting team, one of our main area is of course the consulting area, but we also delivering what we call Cubewise Care, which is TM1 application support program and managed services. We also offering education and in general the knowledge transfer offering through our Cubewise EDU division. A lot of also ensure.
Stefan?
I think we lost Stefan's line there. Let me maybe step in and continue here. Yeah. A Cubewise Code division is dedicated to building tools and software on top of TM1. The most famous ones are Arc and Pulse. And then finally, we've got Cubewise Solutions. That's coming with applications focused on specific target areas. The one that's been around for quite some time is our Applico suite, where we are focusing on the financial area with pre-built models for cash flow, P&L, and balance sheets. And today, we're actually launching a second Cubewise solution with Supply Focus, which is concentrating on supply chain management solutions. Just a word on our core values within Supply Focus. How do you want to come to the customers? How are we going to work with you? Well, first of all, we strongly believe in craftsmanship. We know what we're doing. We are not modest about that. We've done this many times before. So the models that we're bringing and the experience we're bringing is real. It's not made up. These are things that have proven their value. And in our projects, we always want to approach things in teamwork, combined with knowledge sharing, because those two things go hand in hand. We don't want to do things by ourselves and bring you a model that you don't know how it's put together and how it functions. We will closely cooperate with our client expert team, bringing them up to speed on how the technology side of things work. And in exchange, we try to learn as fast as possible how your business is being run. And you can count on us to follow through on our commitments. So this is not just a quick launch of something that we slap together in a couple of weeks. This is an ongoing initiative. Supply Focus is going to keep growing. We're going to try to keep adding value and more real world models in that suite. And I think Cubewise worldwide is known for our quality, and Supply Focus will not be an exception to that. Quality is at the cornerstone of how we work and what we deliver. So that is a commitment that you can count on from Cubewise point of view. All right, few people ask me why we are starting with this Supply Focus initiative. Planning analytics traditionally is quite well known for being used in the finance area, budgeting, forecasting. But the reality is that I think for probably about 40% of the projects we have been doing, we've been doing that in the area of supply chain management. So the consultants working at Cubewise often come from a supply chain management background. So we've got years of experience in that area. We're not just a bunch of financial experts. In those years, we've built many real world models. So these are not theoretical models that we invented in a back room. What we've put in Supply Focus is a distillation out of many projects we've done across many different clients, from small to large international companies. So these are real solutions that have proven their value over time, based on real requirements. So we didn't come up with new requirements that actually don't have any value. As you may know, Planning Analytics TM1 are models that evolve over time, and we see which parts of it are really being used a lot and which parts of it are not as relevant. So the requirements that we've put into our solution are the ones that really matter. We've got the technical know-how. We've been doing TM1 for a long time. We're the world's greatest collection of planning analytics enthusiasts, and we're proud of that. So we know how to deliver on our promises. That's a very reassuring thing to have as a starting point. And then finally, the reason why we're launched Supply Focus is the software itself, because we so strongly believe in planning analytics. It can handle very easy problems, but it can also handle very complex requirements. It can handle a lot of data. And in that sense, it's unparalleled compared to some of the other tools that are on the market. All right, that's it for me, Ulash.
All right, thank you, Dave and Stefan, for all that explanation. So now I'll move to Supply Focus. So I'll start by saying Supply Focus is a bespoke supply chain management solution that enables organizations to get the most value throughout their planning, analysis, and reporting processes. And these are some of the core pillars of what makes Supply Focus so strong. Obviously, the flexibility, speed. We believe empowering the users by giving them the necessary flexibility and the speed in a collaborative platform with an intuitive user experience. This is what we believe we can get we can provide the most value to an organization. Supply Focus, in a nutshell, is a dynamic planning and reporting platform to sense and serve the consumer needs, essentially. So we're going to look into this in 3 different classifications. First classification is about what makes a planning and reporting solution dynamic. The cross-functional modeling is one of the core abilities. And this allows you to leverage Supply Focus in an area where you need the most, but you can always have the ability to extend and expand. Maybe in simpler words, you want to start by where you need this most, let's say demand planning. You want to build up your plans in a consistent way, in a reliable platform, and build up your forecast accuracy. Yeah, that's perfect. And then over the time, you're happy with the solution and everything, and then you can extend it to a different area like production planning or capacity allocations, SKU allocations, inventory optimization, and so on. It provides a connected platform where you can enable yourselves to drive informative decisions and to come up with the best outcome. Obviously, every organization have a different planning approach or culture, if you will, and we do accommodate pretty much most of those approaches, right? So driver-based planning, top-down, bottom-up, doesn't matter, or CVB, basically that allows the organization to plan what feels relevant for the company. Multi-scenario is very important. Vast majority of our customers are still looking for this functionality. Having a single plan is often not enough. So you have to have the ability to quickly work on a new scenario. Say you have worked on your base scenario, you consider many aspects, but then you always want to do run a couple of more scenarios on top of your base, thinking about currency fluctuations or stores opening, closing constantly, or global catastrophe like COVID. So you want to have that various what-if analysis on top of your plans. So that's what it's all about. And lastly, the improved planning and analysis functionalities. This is essentially the ability to drill down into details in an easy way, in an efficient way, whether it's a visual chart or a simple spreadsheet, doesn't really matter. Have those core functionalities to be able to easily plan and analyze. It's difficult to explain, so I'll leave that to the team to demonstrate that throughout the session. In the next pillar, we have considered the essentials. So these are the must-haves to cope with the day-to-day planning challenges. I'm not going into too much detail in this because they're mostly self-descriptive and they speak for themselves. But quickly, flexibility is obviously a crucial one. The ability to embrace the complexity, the business complexity, but also deal with or look for the simplicity where you can. So eliminating the unnecessary complexity and duplication, which will allow you to come up with the most optimal solution. But we're not saying your business is complex, so simplify it so it works for everyone. No, we're very much aware that business is complex, and the way to deal with that is not simplifying that part, maybe everything around it, which can be simplified. Speed, obviously, today's world, speed is very important. So everything around speed, considered modeling, development, calculation time, you enter data, how fast you can see a visual updating, this kind of stuff, planning, analysis, overall speed is very important, and that has to be at an acceptable rate. And the other stuff like real-time calculations with data visualization, intuitive user experience, or seamless and integrated ecosystem, those are, I think, speaks for themselves. But user experience is something we looked into very carefully. As in today's world, UX becomes a key player in pretty much everything we do. So that's why we have the design for usability mentality, which drives an intuitive user experience on any device. So the next pillar is the additional capabilities. So for us, the prediction engine and the decision optimization engine, they both are at the core of supply focus. So anywhere we feel there's a need for a statistical modeling or a machine learning algorithm or an optimization, we always bring in those factors in to get the most outcome and value. Obviously, there's like Excel add-in. So for any planners, users who are comfortable with Excel or Excel-like solutions, they can obviously use the mature Excel add-in, and that will eliminate, of course, some of the risks that you might be facing just by using Excel, what we call it the Excel hell. So no more crashes of Excels or opening Excel files in hours to go on a coffee break, long coffee breaks, or formula errors, complex data collections, and so on. So that basically eliminates that, and just use Excel for what it's best at, but link it to a solution that does the rest. And obviously, cloud versus on-premise, one of the buzzwords these days, but it's available at both. It's really a preference depending on company's IT policy. That is a preference, and security as well. So it's security is very tight, so data is important. So security can be as advanced or as basic as you need, from, I guess, application level to lowest level to a cell level that could be established. Next up is, I'm just going to bring all of them. So basically, this is at the highest level what we are kind of focused on. So demand planning, merchandise planning, alignment, inventory, production, supply, distribution. So these are the areas. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. Obviously, you go in more granular level, more detail. There are sub-modules, sub-solutions that is available, but that's the highest level what Supply Focus is intended to cover. So if I'm not going to go through all of them, but to start with some of them, maybe less familiar with. Demand sensing is a unique statistical forecasting and machine learning method that predicts demand based on business drivers. The analysis combines predictive and visual analytics and leverages all sorts of available data that could be internal, external, or structured, not unstructured. And that brings insight into your operations, sales, marketing, supply chain. And to give more example, maybe merchandise planning. So highest level, we call it merchandise planning, but you go on a more granular level, maybe your need is very specific. So it's, let's say, open to buy, stock and sales, WYSI, like weekly sales, stock intake, assortment planning, pricing, could be even like a simple lost sales calculation, how much sales opportunity I'm losing based on my inefficiencies, or maybe like operational inefficiencies, or store clustering to find the best mix of stores and plan based on this. So that is all possible with Supply Focus. And alignment, another maybe less familiar category, is essentially everyone plans in an organization, right? In different departments, different people, different purposes, on different levels with different data. But if you are trying to plan a product, plan a production of a specific product in a specific location, there shouldn't be really many contradictory numbers, right? So alignment is really about bringing those functions and people together to collaborate and align on one number. So this also includes the aggregation or the segregation of data, assuming that everybody is operating on different levels, different groupings. So that's what it does basically. Next is analytics lifecycle. So for people who are not really familiar with this is basically the 5 stages. What is our plan? So this is the planning stage where you kind of focus on building your plans, forecast, budgets in a consistent and reliable way. And what happened is the descriptive stage where you can basically look back and report, analyze, and understand what exactly happened. You can obviously deep dive to gain more insights and understand why it actually happened. So that's the diagnostic stage, and you can understand the all contributing patterns, or do a gap analysis. What's the variance versus last year? Why? And understand that. And then next is the predictive stage, which is what will happen next. So based on all the available data historically, or maybe other contributing factors, you try to forecast, predict your future. And that could be 12 months, 15 months, a couple of years. And you could do that with obviously in different ways. You can do it even with multiple ways, and then find the best model that works for your data in your business. And then last is obviously what should we do? So assuming that you have a plan, you basically leverage the prediction and everything, and you have something as a result, and you want to drive a decision and action on it, and execute the plan. But you're not sure if that's the most optimal solution, that's the most optimal outcome. So the prescriptive side is basically really to understand, comparing all the variations, like, is that really the best outcome, or could there be another solution? So that's what the optimization engine helps us. And finally, I wanted to talk about the technology. Although supply focus is very much problem and problem solving oriented, technology is very much important for us. That is why, as Dave said, we leveraged IBM's planning analytics powered by TM1. We believe this is the most powerful and flexible solution on the market that can help us accommodate all the problem solving frameworks. So essentially, when you look at this image, what you see is models within models, or even modules. So depending on what you need, you might have a demand planning, merchandise planning, production planning, or all of them combined, which are connected to each other, talks to each other. You could even link that to the Office of Finance, to the FP&A world, and make sure you drive operational and strategic outcomes together. But yeah, essentially, this is the intention. And these demand plan and other modules that comes in different shapes. It's not really a standard approach. Every organization is different, so that's why it will always be different for any organization. And on the left-hand side, which is maybe less important for this audience, it's the development and administration layer, where administrators can easily maintain, update the solution. And on the right-hand side, we have the prediction and optimization engine. So that's how the kind of models and data communicate with the prediction algorithms or decision optimization algorithms, and leveraging multiple solutions here with IBM's products, Watson, CPLEX, SPSS, but also some open source solutions like Python. And we leverage the TM1 which kind of builds a relation between the two. Finally, we have the end user layer, as I said before. So depending on what type of user you are, familiar with Excel or more browser-based user interfaces, you have the both possibility to use it. And Applico UX provides a consistent experience across laptops, tablets, and mobiles. So yeah. And in the end, this part is basically your data sources. So it could be one or multiple in your case, but these are random brands, which provides you some ERP, data warehouse, data lake systems, and then via the ETL processing with Turbo Integrator or via REST API, we could connect all these different systems into our planning and reporting solution. So yeah, this is pretty much what I want to say. I don't want to go more in detail. I know it's very technical. I didn't want to keep that detail. So now we're slowly moving to the demonstration. I'll pass it on to you, Nathan. So the first up is the demand planning demo.
Awesome. Thanks, Julius. Welcome everyone, and thank you everyone for attending. I'll be walking through our demand plan. So what we have, our sort of position here is more around a fashion or a retailer. So where you'll be procuring goods from suppliers, and you'll be looking to map out where you're going to be selling. So we're going to be procuring stock and goods. What we want to be selling is what we're going to be trying to get out of it, the outcome of what we're trying to achieve, where we're going to be selling it, and also how we are going to be selling it. So within this module, we have a decision optimization sort of engine, a predictive layer that will generate and review actuals that have been flowing through into the system, and will assess across a wide time frame to assess how the seasonality of the groupings of the products will pertain to how we actually move through into the future. So we'll be grouping based on region. So that region could be intercompany, intercountry. It could be interstate, depending on how you're going. And our product group will be the collection of multiple products within the same type of family or series. So as I mentioned, the objective is what we're going to be, what our demand is going in the future. How much are we going to be growing, and what am I going to be selling, and where? All right, so needless to say, I'll move on to our demo. I will just take off my screen because it is interacting with my sharing. So and up we come. Okay, let me just log in. Okay. All right, so this is our first landing page. Now we're just moving into our demand plan. This is at the first part of our demand plan. So it'll be a pre-season. We're looking to assess what our future is moving forwards throughout into the next season. So at the starting page in here, we can see what our actuals are flowing through. We can look at our time series within here. And our regions and so on and so forth. We have in here a heat map, which will also be able to be drilled through, and also our actuals versus forecast throughout our price down to our net sales. I can interact within here as well and drill down into my net sales. So this is at the top region in here, but it will, it will allow me to drill down and have a cross section between in a region, or whether I wanted to close that and do the same thing via a product. So it'll give me a breakdown for the individual sections as they appear. What I'll be moving through into here and looking at what our actuals is faring like. So if I drill into my daywear and let's say go into our adult, our women's, and we can then say, okay, well, let's drill into our Western Europe area and select on our area. Okay, so by selecting on our navigation, we've selected our region in here. We can also change this as well, so it's quite easy and intuitive to review. When I move into our demand plan, we have our bricks and mortar. That's what I'll be showing today. We also have multiple channels throughout in here. So we have our digital and our wholesale, and where needed, we'll have multiple other channels if needed. But what we can see in here as an assessment of our season 2, which is our current actual season, we can get quite a few KPIs and our comparisons between the current season as well as the last year's season. With our widgets, we can show our variances and how they track between last year and actuals, and we can see that the trend, our position is that the net sales and the units are relatively in line. So there hasn't been a big change in our pricing structure for this section. Okay, so I'm going to move into our demand plan, and this is where the nuts and bolts of our starting part. So within here, widget down within here, any of the yellow fields we can actually interact with. But what we're trying to do is we're starting from a prediction point of view. So we'll be looking at assessing what we've done in the future, and then build on there for any adjustments or any returns or bits and pieces within there. So what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to show you currently right now how we're trending for our actuals, and then when we actually run our prediction, let me just pop the details in. Okay, so it's pre-filled. Let me just run that. So what this is doing is triggering off our prediction engine, and assessing across either a 52-week or a 104-week, so 1 year or 2 years, depending on the availability of the data. Now, based on that data, it's working out the trend and the assessment across the seasonality, and then applying that to so training it based on the actuals that have come through, and then also applying it for the next 2 seasons ahead. Okay, so once that's finished, we can see that we've got a demand prediction through in here, and when I click on my review, we can see how well we've gone. So our blue in here is our prediction numbers, and we can see how close the trend is compared to our actuals, which is looking pretty nice. We can see that we've got a nice peaks and troughs for our actuals, and we can see that's emulated within our forecast. All right, so as I've started with my prediction, I can then also interact with any adjustments. So I can potentially increase or decrease this if I wanted to, as well as interact with our returns. So increasing or decreasing our returns will affect our net sale units that we're going to be using, and I can also affect our discount percentages as well. If I jump across into our seasonal outlook, we can see that we're looking pretty nice on our trend across into the future, and we can see that the total sales compared to our demand and prediction are relatively in line, which is what we'll be looking for. Okay. Now, as Yulesh mentioned, this model is based around scenario planning. So we've been doing our predictions in our base scenario. So what we can actually do is interact with potential scenarios or potential what ifs to have a side-by-side comparison between a potential top, medium or bottom scenario. So I've got a couple of things within here. So in our base scenario, we can see this column running down in here. What we can do is interact between our top versus base. So our top scenario allows us a 10% increase based on the price growth. So it will generate what the price is. And all these interactions will allow us to then influence what our net result coming down in the bottom. So if I was to say in here that my discounts was actually going to be -3% instead of actually -5, we can see that it will automatically calculate that, and our net results are actually immediate. Same with our bottom. If I was to increase this to 20% for our discounts, we can see that once we generate that, our discounts will then influence our totals. Okay, moving on through, if I click on the next button, we'll go into our analysis section. And great. And what this allows us to do is from an all regions and all products, we can look at our scale. Now I'm scaling it at thousands. I can also scale at millions if I wanted to, or move it back to a base scale. Let me just keep it on K. And then within here, we can, at one click, we can just drill into here, and we can be looking into the different areas of where we're actually planning and looking to see our response. So at any point in time, I can click back onto here and move back into my my total area. Within any parts of these, we can also drill on any of these regions where we can display where the total is coming from and what our contribution is per region. Within our widgets over here, we can also do the same, and we can work out where our impacts are coming from. Okay, so from a big bricks and mortar perspective, this is what we've got in place. Our digital is going to be very much similar, except for where we might be looking at returns or discounts as well as gross price. We'll be looking at traffic and cancellation rates and bits and pieces like that. Wholesale will be similar. They will have different drivers that will impact it. But each of these are separate, as in the drivers and adjustments will actually be impacted just to the bricks and mortar or just to the digital. And in our total, once we've entered in all of our plans, we can then review it from a total perspective and then see what impact that we actually have within our model. So we can see in here on our retail side of things, we've got quite a bit, but we haven't actually entered in on our e-commerce, and we can see our KPIs and our displays coming through. So it gives us a nice visual representation of the plan that's coming through. All right, well, that's it in a nutshell for demand planning. I will pass you back through to Ulash and on to the next demonstration.
Thank you, Nathan. That was a great demonstration. So now let me quickly share my screen. We're kind of moving towards the second demonstration, which is supply plan. So over to you, Mathilde.
Thank you, Ulash. Thank you, Nathan. So here we are in the same company as Nathan showed you for the demand planning, and we are gonna do the supply plan. So in this situation, we have around 50 suppliers, around 300 products. So let's say that Nathan did the demand planning by product groups, and then the merchandise planning was done by product. So here we have a demand by product, and we need to choose how best allocate the product demand to the suppliers, knowing that we have a lot of constraints. As for example, the cost price is depending on the production quantity, meaning that the more you produce, the less it costs. So for this problem, we'll have, as information, we'll have the demand by product, the total MOQ and the MOQ for the supplier, which is the minimum order quantity. So for example, a supplier would allow you to produce your product if you only exceed 1,000 units, for example. We also have the information of supplier capacity. We can't exceed the supplier capacity, which is in units. And we also have a supplier score, which is a grading by season, taking into account the lead time, the production lead time, the cost price, and also the quality. So the objective of our problem here is to maximize the production. We want to reach the demand, so produce 100% of our demand, multiplied by the supplier score. So let's go to the demo now. Okay, that's it. So let's go to the supply plan. So we imagine that different teams does the demand planning and another one does the supply planning. So the first dashboard here is the demand review. So here we have the demand splitted by channel and by product group. And we can also check the lowest level. So here we are by SKU. And here we have the share of each product group for the selected region. So for example, we can deep dive into Europe to see if the share is the same as the worldwide share. And then we can go to the supplier selection. So we did a manual allocation, and we developed some dashboard to help the user doing this allocation. And then we did an algorithm that allocates the demand, so an algorithm based on decision optimization. So the first screen for the supplier selection, it's by product. So here we are filtered, all the dashboard is filtered on a specific product. And let me refresh maybe. And let me remove my camera. Okay. Okay, so the first screen is by product. We have all the suppliers that could produce this product. And we have the proposed cost price for all the suppliers. So for example, here, so we are on the manual allocation. These are the suppliers, and this is the product we are trying to allocate. We have here the demand for our product, which is nearly 42,000 units. And manually, we allocated all this demand to the first supplier. And in this table, we have the information of MOQ, of cost price proposed by the supplier, and the supplier score. So for example, in this screen, if I try to allocate more than the demand, refresh, I've got an alert here because I don't want to produce more than my demand. So let's go back to the first allocation. And here we also have a pop-up with the suggested cost price by supplier for this specific product. So as you can see here, the cost price goes from 11 euros for less than 500 units produced to 7 euros if we produce more than 20,000 units. And we also have the information of the cost prices in different currencies, so in the currency of the supplier. We also have some nice visuals to see where we are when we try to allocate manually this demand. So for example, here we have the allocation by family. Here we have the allocation by category. So as we can see, the underwear category is not fully allocated. And we also have information of a supplier breakdown. So manually, it took nearly 3 hours to do this allocation. And here we can see that we allocated all the product demand to a single supplier. And we also have here the top 10 products for this supplier. Then we have kind of the same screen, but this time not by product, but by supplier, to check that the supplier constraints are respected. So here we'll have a simple pop-up to check our allocation. So we have the information by supplier of the MOQ, the quantity allocated. So we have the total MOQ for the supplier, the capacity here, and we can quickly check that the allocated demand is between the total MOQ and the capacity. And if we check quickly, okay, no problem, the allocation was done okay. And here in this table, we have the information of the MOQ by product this time and the cost price ranking. So for each product, we would rank the supplier depending on the cost price suggested by this supplier. And this is used for the supplier score. So here we have, for this specific supplier, the information here of the product is going to supply. And here, just a graph showing the demand versus the capacity and the MOQ, to check that, of course, the allocated demand does not exceed the capacity. And here we have, on the last chart, we have an overview of all the suppliers and the used capacity. So as we can see, we have around 6 suppliers where we use 100% of their capacity. And at the end, so let's say I did manually the allocation. I didn't do it live because, as I said, it took like nearly 3 hours for 50 suppliers and 300 products. So here at the end, we have an overview by supplier and by category of our allocation. So now, the fun part, we're going to run the algorithm and see if the algorithm is better than our brain. So spoiler alert, yes. So let's click here and run the optimization. So let's go. So now the data coming from TM1 are sent to our Python algorithm. So we are sending the demand by product, all the supplier constraints as the capacity, the MOQ, and the score also. So the score is really depending on the cost price. And as I showed you before on the PowerPoint, we are trying to maximize the production multiplied by the score, so by the supplier score. And as you can see just behind the refresher, the pop-up here, manually we allocate 93% of our demand. So it's not 100%. Maybe we could ask to some supplier to increase their capacity for the next season, or maybe the suggested cost price were not enough. Well, too high, sorry. So, okay, the optimization ran. We saw that it lasted way less than 3 hours. It was around 40 seconds. And here we have the result of our optimization. So we have a manual here, the decision optimization here. As we can see, the percentage of allocated demand is nearly the same. So we did a good job for the manual allocation, actually. And the most important information here, it's the allocated cost. So these figures are the sum of all the product costs from the suppliers. And we can see that with decision optimization, we gain 3% of our allocated cost. And here we have some visuals to check the allocated demand, the allocated cost. And here a table with the information, the detailed information by supplier, by product for the manual allocation and the decision optimization allocation. So as you can see, just for example, for the first supplier, we allocate for this product all the demand, while decision optimization splitted the demand among multiple suppliers. So this is an example of what decision optimization can do. It's a use case. I mean, the algorithm is totally customized based on the use case, but we could imagine a lot of supply chain problem using decision optimization, as Alice is going to show you just after that. And last thing I wanted to show you, it's the scorecard. We have some nice visuals to see to have an overview of all our suppliers, and then to have the main KPIs for specific suppliers. So for example, here we can see that we have for this specific season 51 suppliers. We allocated 93% of our demand, and we can see here the score of the supplier. So we have 20 gold suppliers, so the top suppliers, 24 silver and 7 bronze. We also have here the share of supplier by lead time, and here the share by region. So for example, we can each time deep dive. So for example, in Europe, we see that we produced in 5 countries, and we can also deep dive to see the detail of each supplier. So for example, for Turkey, we are working with 3 suppliers. And here, just a bubble chart showing the best suppliers depending on the allocated demand for the season and the lead time. And then we can go to a specific supplier to check its KPI for the past season. So for example, here we are on a Portuguese supplier. We can see the total spend for the season, how many units we allocated, how many products, its average lead time. And here in this spider chart, we see the detail of the score. So as you can see, it's depending on the lead time, the quality, the MOQ, and the cost price. So here the supplier is pretty good in the three categories here, but not really in the cost price. It's an average, it's suggested average cost prices. And here we have the trend, the capacity trends. So as we can see, we use 100% of this supplier for the past 3 seasons. So if we are happy with this supplier, maybe we could ask him to increase its capacity for the next season. So, decision optimization could be really customized to all your supply chain problem. Here it's just an example of what we can do. As you can see, we gained 3% in margin, and we didn't waste time to work, to allocate our demand to a lot of suppliers. And here, remember that we had only 50 suppliers, but in real life, maybe you can work with 200 suppliers and a lot more products. So decision optimization could really be the good thing to use in this kind of problems. And Alice is going to show you another example in a production company. So that's it for my demo. Alice, that's you.
Hi, everyone. Yes, you can unshare your screen, maybe, Mathilde.
Yep. Sorry.
Thank you. So I'm just going to put a little bit the camera, but then I'm going to turn it off. Now I'm going to show you something completely different from, different from what Metal just showed you. Ulash, if you're here, maybe you can share the slide. If not, I'm going to just continue.
Yeah, so just give me, I lost connection for a second, but I'm back.
No worries.
All right. Yeah, I'm bringing it up just in a second. There you go.
Perfect.
Production
Thank you.
planning.
Yes, exactly. So, and on the contrary of what Metal just showed you, I'm going to show you a demo we've done for a pharmaceutical company. And the difference was that this pharmaceutical company was manufacturing its own products. So we're not searching a supplier here. We're searching for a production plan, actually. So what we have in this module, we have around 100 products, 80 components, something like that. 2 production sites with 24 machines and more than 1,000 of customers around the world. So the objective of this module, is so basically to get a production plan. So first, we've got still a specificity that we had on this company. It was that we needed to calculate the quantity to be produced, because I'm going to show you the detail later on. We needed to allocate then the production to the machines and to those sites, production sites. We wanted to maximize the gross margin, and obviously we wanted to take into account the constraints we have. So now I'm going to share my screen and turn off the camera. So here you go. So first step we're doing here is we're going to calculate how much we need to produce. The specificity of the company we had, it was that they had calculated themselves the demand of the whole market. So what we did here is we get rid of the competitor share, and also we kept into account a minimum production adjustments. Obviously, we don't want to produce only one injection or even one tab. So we have minimum production quantities, MOQ. And also we're taking into account the opening stocks here. So when we already have the products, we don't product them, and it's not needed for us to product them. So here, for example, total markets, the demand for our company, and how much do we need to produce. Okay, so once we've got this number, we're going to go into the production plan. So in this wizard, what we're going to do is basically enter all our constraints into the first and the second step. So first step, configuration. What we do is we enter the setups for the production sites, the machines, the products, and the customers. So for example, here, we're on the production sites setup. So we're going to enter our constraints. So on our production site, we've got something like 12 machines. On our production site 2, we've got 13 machines. And then we enter by machine the product cost per hour, the capacity of the machine, and the efficiency of the machine. Obviously, a machine is not efficient always 100% of the time. Some machines need some maintenance, some time to change some stuff, and so on. So you can all set it up here. In our example here, we don't have the same machines in both sites. And a machine is not able to produce all the products. Some machines are specified. Sorry. So, for example, machine 1 is only doing patch. Machine 11 is only doing tablets. And we don't have the same machines in both sides. So it's a little bit complicated. If we wanted to do that just on Excel, it would be a nightmare, definitely. So, and we also enter here some fixed cost of the production site. This is, again, to analyze the gross margin after that. So, once we have done our setup for this, the production site, we're going to go do the setup for the machine by product by machine. So by product by machine, what we have to set up here is the production lead time. So for each product, I enter how long it takes for my product to be produced on this machine. So for example, machine 2 for this product is faster than machine 1. So then I'm going to go to my products. And on my products, I can set up the batch of my products, the minimum production quantities for my products. So again, I don't want to produce only one tab. It's minimum 100 or something like that. And what is also very important, a priority. Because the algorithm takes also into account the priority we want to put manually on a product. So for example, it's been 3 months since we couldn't produce a Nepro 1 milligram patch, so on. Then I'll definitely need to produce this this product. So I'm gonna put a priority 1 on this one to make sure I will produce it if I've got the capacity. Okay. Once you've got that, you've done that, you also put some priorities on the customers, because once we have done the production plan in our module, the production that is done is then allocated to our customers. So we also know after running the algorithm, we also know where we need to ship the products. Okay, so once we have done all of the setups, there is still one thing to set up. It's the stocks. Very important, because it's going to have a lot of impacts on the capacity of production we're going to have. If we don't have enough stock, we're not going to be able to produce, obviously. So for example, here, if I go back on May, and if I choose randomly, I don't know why I take this one, but material 15, we can see that we should be okay with the stocks, okay? But spoiler alert, maybe they're gonna be an issue, because if we take a look closely to May, since we're in May, we see that we definitely have enough stock, but not on both sides, because in violet here in purple, it's the side 2, and in blue, the side 1. So my needed quantities is above side 2. So keep that in mind, and we continue. Okay, so on the stock part, we also have all the nice featurings, functionalities. So for example, we have an automatic reorder based on week cover. So here you just set up how much week cover you want. And if your stocks is below the week cover, then we're going to automatically reorder some stocks. We also have wizard to control and to transfer stocks from one production site to another. So if you have too much stock on one site and not enough on the other one, you just transfer your stocks, and then a screen of overview. So once we have set up all of this, we're going to just run the algorithm. So just keep in mind how long it would take for you to do that just on Excel or something like that. So here the algorithm is running, and as I told you, is maximizing the gross margin. It takes into account the priority you have put. And then obviously it takes into account the constraints we have set up. So the demand, the batch, machine capacities, the stock, lead time, and so on. So see, only something like even not even 20 seconds. So it's done. And here we've got a prediction of that amount. So let's go to analytics and reports to see what happened. So we are happy, but not happy. We are happy because we have produced 89% of the demand. So we can fulfill 89% of the demand. It's not bad. It's cool. It's very cool. But if we take a look closely at the top 10 products, priority products that we have, the priority we have input manually, we can see that the 3 first products that are prioritized are not fully produced and even not produced at all for some. So definitely we've got an issue here. So we're going to take a look on what happened. Here, for example, let's take a look at the product details. So my first priority product was Evenity 105 milligram injection and so on. So as we can see, I produce only 64% of my product. On the screen, I've got a view on the production costs, the bill of material here, and the machine costs and the lead time. And as you can see here, I've got only 1 bar because I've got only the site 2 that is available. So I can deduct from that my products can be produced only on site 2 because there is not the same machines in site 1 and site 2. So basically, I don't have the machine needed in site 1, so it's only produced in site 2. Okay, so let's take a look at the machine capacity. Maybe my machine 16 is not available anymore, but my product Evenity is an injection. As you can see, I've got some missing capacities on spray, but I don't have any on injection. So the issue is not definitely on the machine capacity. Machine costs, no, it shouldn't have any importance here because it's a priority 1. So we shouldn't take into account the costs. Maybe it's the stock, the component stock. So on this screen, we can see that I have got no total missing stock. Weird. So let's take a look of the bill of material. So my product is this one. Material 15, maybe you remember, I zoomed on it. So material 15 is used here, okay. The other, my priority 2 products is this one. Let's take a look. Yeah, again, material 15. Maybe I'm going to take a look closely at material 15. And if I take a look closely at material 15, I see that on site 1, I use none of this material, but on site 2, I use almost all of it. And actually, I use all of it. So I don't have any left at the end. So definitely, I can see here that maybe I've got an issue on the stock of material 15. And if I transfer my stocks, it would be better. So once we have done that, we also have linked all those calculations on a gross margin analysis. So as you can see here, we've just done a small gross margin analysis based on the result of the algorithm and on the constraints we have put. So for example, here we have the fixed cost that is coming here by site. So production site 1, production site 2 here. And we've got the sales because we've got our selling price. We've got some markdowns that we have input some percentage of markdowns by customer. And then we've got also calculated by the algorithm the raw material costs, the direct machine costs, and so we input the fixed cost. So we get from here the gross margin. And we've got the evolution of the gross margin over the years, the COGS composition. So as we can see, our production site doesn't cost a lot. Maybe we should take a look closer. And we see the composition of the gross margin here on a nice waterfall chart also. So here you go. We also have here on this demo a functionality of what if scenarios. So once we have done all of that, we've got a basis, and on this basis, we can adjust some constraints. Maybe, for example, we can say, for example, maybe my demand is going to be lower this year. What if on this product I'm gonna have a lowest demand? Or maybe what if I have my selling price lower than what I wanted? So you can change all of this and then rerun the algorithm, and then you're gonna have a different scenario. So you've got some all the constraints are summarized here, and you can switch the priority also here. You can switch the minimum of quantity, the batch, and the raw materials, also price, and also the site setups. You can change all of that. So here you go. Yes. So it's a bit slower now. Okay, it's perfect. So for example, if I want to change my fixed cost, since I said that maybe it's going to be a little bit lower this year, I can just add it here, for example, over the year. Yeah, as you can see, I've changed my months here, and so on, and I can change everything I need. It's going to be taking into account into the algorithm, and then you just click rerun and take a look at the results. So here you go. I hope you liked it. And I think it's up to you guys. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate. I hope you liked all the demos you've seen, and do not hesitate, don't be shy, ask us.
Yeah, thank you, Alice, for that great presentation. I guess we can now move on to the Q&A session.
Yeah, we can. There's a couple of questions in the chat that we haven't tackled yet. Let's maybe start with the one from Ava, where she's asking if when there's a change of suppliers or product demand, how easy can we update the results? And I think it was a question during your session, Mathilde.
Yes, so, well, if we have new suppliers, for example, or a change of demand, we could just click on the button and rerun the whole algorithm for all the product and all the suppliers. So it takes around 40 seconds. So I would say it's very easy. And if you just have new products with a new demand, we could also have a new algorithm that takes into account only the new product and all the suppliers with their actual capacity, meaning the capacity minus the already allocated demand. So I would say it's very easy to update that with new informations. I don't know if it answers your question, Abba, but if you have another one, don't hesitate.
Okay. Let's also circle back to Jess's question. Who is the primary target for supply focus? We've shown a couple of demos, and many of them are retail related. Is that our main primary target?
I wouldn't say it's the primary target. I guess it's applicable for any industry, any organization. It really depends on, from a stage perspective, I don't know if they're talking about the specific stage of the supply chain or the full cycle, but yeah, supply focus is one of strengths is the flexibility, and it's not specifically oriented for retail, although the examples, they were retail and pharmaceutical, but yeah, that doesn't really limit supply focus for a specific industry.
Okay, cool. And then there was Sherihan's question. How does a solution like supply focus relate to an ERP system? Shouldn't all of this be part of an ERP solution?
Well, it could be, but it's not, I guess. Well, if you think about the ERPs, the objective of the ERP is really to manage the day-to-day business, right? The operations, the like ordering systems, planning, making sure you efficiently use your resources with a decided execution plan, right? Whereas planning is very different. It's very dynamic. The ask is like there's a lot of changes happening in the planning world, right? Especially with the business. So if the leaders in the supply chain or in the organization is asking, okay, we have planned sort of a capacity plan and based on the demand that we have, what happens if our demand goes up to 20% or 30%? Then you want to be able to quickly and easily make that analysis, right, and drive that outcome. So first of all, will I be able to sell that much? Is that realistic? Is that opportunistic? Or once I have that, can I actually produce it? Do I have the necessary raw materials? Do I have the capacity? Do I have to make an investment? So these are questions that you want to drive quickly and analyze it. And that could be done on a highest level or a specific level, which doesn't exist in the ERP, right? So you can customize your group your metadata, which doesn't even exist in ERP. So ERP is a lot more static. It allows you to manage your day-to-day business. Maybe one day, but I think in today's, the planning requirements for a complex business doesn't allow ERP to handle everything. That's why supply focus exists.
Okay, well good. I hope that answers your question. Then I've got another question coming in from Dana, which is obviously always a tricky one. What's the cost of the solution and the timeline for the implementation?
Yeah, well, the cost, I guess it depends on whether you want to do a full cycle or very specific, depending on what supply focus is solving, right? So if it's maybe it's a very small project, right? It's maybe a very specific and simple problem, then the time and the cost will be a lot lower versus leveraging supply focus for a full cycle. But yeah, obviously this is entirely up to you guys. Supply focus can be and most likely will be leveraged gradually instead of full cycle, right? So we try to avoid making full cycle project implementations in one go to eliminate the risk for you guys as well. So it's just it's a gradual project implementation, but to anticipate the cost is very difficult. That really depends on what we are trying to solve.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a complex matter. So I would be surprised if you would have given an exact number.
Yeah, $1 million.
No, it's depending on the use case. So thanks for the question, Dana. I'm just scanning through the chat, but I don't see any other questions unless I missed one. Feel free to repeat it on the chat. Yeah, I think Abba asked the same question. How long does it take to deploy? It'll depend on the use case.
I think someone is writing a question.
There's another question coming. Yeah, there was a question from one of the participants. Also, Dana, how many SKUs we can manage? But yeah, like we commented, Planning and List doesn't have any hard limits. We've seen systems with many SKUs and also many different dimensions to analyze. So it will depend on which model that you're running, but I wouldn't consider any limits there. It's a question from Hisham. How off the shelf is the solution in terms of if we come in, like how much is it ready to go and how much will be customizations?
Majority is customization, and that is intentional because supply chain is very unique in every organization and every industry, right? We intentionally leave majority of it flexible and customizable. So there is a foundation and there is a framework which we can leverage and build on the let's say, building blocks quite faster. So if I have to throw in numbers, I would probably say 30 to 40% kind of framework foundation, or 60, 70% customizable.
Which makes it very flexible.
Yeah, I would also add on to that is that it really depends on the actual module that we're looking at. So, for instance, our supplier module, which is down to product or SKU, it's already at the lowest level. So you'll be sort of that's almost a drop in without customizations, because we don't really need to vary how down the SKU tree that we need to do. Whereas if you're doing demand planning, it really would depend on like the source data that's coming through, as well as what level that it's going to be. So it's very varied at this stage.
Yeah, it goes back to the customization part, right? So if you want to build custom groupings, different product families, different, like raw material groupings, that really depends on how much customizations you're intending to do. Yeah, that's basically, by the way, it's also same goes for the prediction and optimization engine, right? So there's a lot of pre-built time series models, statistical analysis models existing on the market that we can leverage. That also makes things faster, as opposed to using something like demand sensing, which is obviously considering more of your data structure and your business logic. So it's more customized to your needs, right? So that's also another aspect of the complication.
Yeah. Question from Dana: how does it integrate with well-known ERPs?
Yeah, I guess it's fair to say it does well integration. We have a lot of customers running on SAP, Oracle, Microsoft. So as IPM doesn't really have any ERP, we don't have any choice. The integration has to be there. So it does integrate.
Yeah, IBM is doomed to integrate with anything else because it doesn't have an ERP software exactly.
But it's also an important aspect, right? So there has to be an integration. It has to talk back. Right? I mean, pulling the data, connecting and pulling the data is one thing, but communicating that to the ERP is another thing.
Yeah. And to add on to that, Dana, to answer your question, those connections can be in many different ways. For some customers, out of simplicity, sometimes we do go for flat files, but more and more those are direct connections linking directly to the database. There is connectors on the market that we leverage within Planning Analytics. There is also automatic connections we can do, for example, to SAP BW. And through the REST API, we can also connect to cloud platforms. So we can directly link to those and directly load the data, or even load back if we need to write back into a ERP database.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of customers who are leveraging now the REST API to connect with the SAP on cloud ERPs. So that's kind of quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a never-changing challenge. Okay, I think we're getting through the question list. So unless there's anybody else that wants to put their hand up, then we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I think so. I've got one more kind of slide I wanted to put up. I'll wait while Dana is asking the next question. But yeah, you can follow us, and we have our website live, by the way, supplyfocus.cubewise.com. So please visit us, and also LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want to follow us.
All right, super. Thanks everyone for attending. Thanks to the team for presenting and doing it so well.
Yeah.
Good work.
Thank you, everyone.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Speak
you.
to you soon.